Hi everyone, this is Karak with ACG cocked locked, ready to rock, smashing through a city block and count down enemies' lives tick-tock. That's because I'm playing Brigador, a game that could easily be called Desert Strike's Miami Vice cousin. So let's see if this neon-soaked vehicular killing game with tanks that look a bit like Warhammer 40,000 orcs put them together on their day off, and enough death to fill at least 2 raptures is really as good as it seems. As always, if you like the review, maybe subscribe, spread the word. So here's my review for Brigador, a game once called Matador, 2 arc weapon fire, possibly the worst city zoning ever created, and sidewalk cafe car crash death tolls. Graphics are up first. This is pretty easy. It really does look a great deal like the older Desert Strike and Urban Strike games for the Sega Genesis and SNES respectively, except apply an incredible sheen of colored lighting, Amsterdam red light district ambiance, and enough explosion effects to make Michael Bay sit up and say, you know what, that's actually pretty good. And you're somewhere near the start of explaining the look of Brigador. Even for a 3/4 view game, this thing is just out there. Whether you're rampaging through city streets with your mech that leaves your human pilot surprisingly unprotected, or leveling an entire city block by firing your rocket pack into a set of the most poorly placed flammable containers ever, Brigador does not hold back when it comes to anarchy. In fact, it righteously revels in it, your vehicle practically wallowing like a shiny blood-encrusted pig in the flashy purples and blues of enemy laser light, crisp orange and reds of planetary cannons exploding into dust, and various really actually excellent enemy and player vehicle designs exploding around you. Every weapon has a unique firing effect, and damage and particle effects abound throughout. One thing I wasn't all that impressed with were the special tertiary weapons with the smokescreen looking downright budget level compared to everything else. That being said, the game runs tremendously well and throws an absolutely insane number of enemies at you at any one time. I'm not going to lie and say that it doesn't feel a bit like Geometry Wars from time to time as well. It cribs from some of the great games out there, and in the end, at least graphically, it comes damn close to the feel of those classics. I love the graphics. And that of course brings us to sound, music, and voice. Sound is up first. It's fairly well done with mostly accurate sound effects, and also for the most part your weapons differentiate themselves well. Sadly, there's no movement sounds for the mechs, meaning your Ghost Warrior mech slides silently across the asphalt in an almost godlike display of ninja-like skill. It's off-putting and is most likely a bug, but it's hard to actually tell. Regardless, when things get hot, they get heavy, and for the most part the sound is informative to the gamer, allowing them to use it as one more tool aside from vision to assist them in the gameplay. Really good sound. Music. Goddamn. This is up there easily with Blood Dragon, and they are highlighted stylings and futuristic patterns that you expect for a game like this, but at times there's even a bit more complexity than I ever expected from a game about ending an entire civilization of human life in one go. Where they could have gone the easy route, you know, the way that a lot of games go these days with just some ambient tracks, they didn't. Instead, they put an incredibly good soundtrack together. I love it. Now, voice. None. The little people are as silent as the footsteps of the mechs that smash them. Moving on. Gameplay. Listen, this is pretty simple. First you choose a vehicle from a couple choices, hovercraft, tanks, and mechs. Then you outfit them with primary, secondary, and tertiary killing devices. Then you choose one of the couple map locations and jump into the game. Control is a combination of mouse and WASD, though it also has controller support, and it does admittedly take a bit of getting accustomed to as you spend a good deal of your time all supermodel-like, which means facing one way, looking over your shoulder, and going the opposite direction. This time though, you're outfitted with amazing killing devices, each with their own recharge rates, ammo counters, and arcs for firing. Here, there aren't good guys, hell there aren't even laughably okay guys. There's you and everyone else, and luckily, they all have targets on their faces. Beating levels is done in a number of ways, from destroying a number of specific enemies to a set of specific structures, but in the end, if you head out looking to do one thing, there's a good chance you're going to inevitably find yourself on the opposite side of the map, looking back, because here strategy takes a backseat to cocaine-fueled reflexes and constant movement patterns. In fact, for the most part, if you sit still, you're taking damage, and that can be a problem because though you can drive over everything in the world in sort of Austin Power moments, sometimes it takes a bit to get over them, and if you get caught on a retaining wall, the ruthless AI will absolutely tear you apart. Luckily, if enemies get too close, you can always use your melee attack, which destroys walls and also turns enemies into red mist memories. Now, All is not perfect here. At times, the firing arcs can be troublesome, with some weapons passing right underneath enemies because they float, while others don't hit very well unless you aim a bit behind the enemy. Think playing Call of Duty, where headshots are about 4 feet above the head of the enemy. It does take some getting accustomed to, and due to the various combinations, it took longer than I liked. But get accustomed to it, I did. Now, level progression is fairly straightforward, with you defeating each level as you go forward, and if you die, you're immediately reset. This does inevitably lead to a feeling like you're seeing a couple of the same maps more than you might like, but in the end, you're actually really not. Besides, it's hard to tell what map you're in when the first thing you do is crush the shit out of it with your newly named mech, the Man Buttermaker. The different vehicles offer stunningly different gameplay as well, with the hovercraft requiring an almost dancer's grace compared to, say, the tank, which just leveled the playing field by actually leveling the playing field. Each vehicle has a subtle set of traits that you can feel as you grow accustomed to it. What I really liked about the title is that each vehicle offers a suitable platform with an excellent interplay of unique weapons that interact very well with an almost subtle active reload required to replenish your ammunition by using the reload stations scattered throughout the maps. And then an alarm goes off, and that's when all hell breaks loose as the level fills up with enemies. Like the developers wanted all the pixels to be doing something really, really cool. Luckily, as I said before, it holds its own with a fairly rock-solid frame rate, and you can usually fight yourself out of it. Listen, these types of games need to keep a gamer engaged with a steady diet of enemy patterns, interesting gunplay, and learned technique translating into success, even if failure rears its ugly head. And for the most part, it succeeds with wondrous repetition. From time to time, you do get frustrated when you look at a vehicle and think to yourself, I just hit that guy, or when one of the little humans hides out in a crop of trees and slowly whittles you away with a laser, and you just happen to have either no ammo or your weapons just don't seem suitable for anything but armored foes. Now, those are minor quibbles, and in the end, I actually didn't feel that they were fair for me to even hold against the title, because that's actually up to me to make sure it doesn't happen. Fun factor. It's a blast. I don't like the level progression much, and at first glance it can appear like you're not even progressing because once you die it all again resets to 0. But once you have that in mind, this is distilled adrenaline down into game form, and its ultimately successful attempts at bringing some of the classics back into the fray are noticeable right away. So I rate games on a buy, wait for a sale, rent, or never talk about it again rating scale. This is definitely a buy. It's got suitable length at an excellent price of $14.99 and just a very, very enjoyable gameplay loop. It also looks the part. Very fun, super enjoyable game. So if you like this review, hit like. If you dislike this review, hit dislike. Maybe subscribe, maybe tell friends, whatever. In the end, peace out.